Throughout his career, Ye has become known not just as a creative artist, but also as someone full of surprises. While his official albums are full of big hits that shaped music, there's another side to his story, a collection of albums that were never fully released. These projects were sometimes previewed, leaked, or mentioned online, and have become legendary among fans. They show the wild, ambitious, and always changing way Ye makes music. What follows is a timeline of the most famous albums that almost happened. Chapter 1. Good Ass Job, 2009. Originally planned as the final piece in Ye's early college-themed series, Good Ass Job was meant to follow Graduation in 2009. The album promised to be a return to soulful production and uplifting lyrics, a victory lap after a decade of success. But the tragic passing of his mother and the emotional aftermath led Ye to pivot creatively, resulting in the much darker and more experimental 808s and Heartbreak. While Good Ass Job was never finished, the idea remained a fan favorite and a what if in hip-hop. Chapter 2. Child Rebel Soldier, CRS. A dream collaboration between Ye, Lupe Fiasco, and Pharrell Williams. Child Rebel Soldier promised a group like no other. The trio released a few tracks like Us Placers, but scheduling conflicts and industry pressures stopped the full album from ever coming together. Chapter 3. Cruel Winter, 2012 to 2016. After Cruel Summer, Ye talked about making a follow-up album with his Good Music team. In 2016, he released Champions with Big Sean, Travis Scott, and others, calling it the first single. Fans were excited, but the full album never came out, and was quietly cancelled. Chapter 4. Thank God for Drugs, Early Yeezus 1/pre-2013. Before Yeezus shocked the world in 2013, Ye was working on a raw, dark, and experimental project known as Thank God for Drugs. It was a chaotic blend of industrial sounds and heavy themes, considered the early version of Yeezus. Though the songs were never officially released, the direction set the tone for what Yeezus would become. Chapter 5. Yeezus 2, 2013-2014. Not long after the release of Yeezus, Ye was already exploring a sequel. Yeezus 2 included the legendary unreleased track Can You Be, which would later reappear with a Ty Dolla $ign feature on Vultures 2 Deluxe. Fans saw glimpses of what could have been, but the project was shelved as Ye moved toward other creative paths. Chapter 6. So Help Me God, 2015. In early 2015, Ye announced this as the next album after Yeezus. Songs like All Day and early versions of Wolves were linked to it. Over time, the album kept changing names, from So Help Me God to Swish to Waves, and eventually became The Life of Pablo in 2016. The original idea evolved as Ye's vision shifted. Chapter 7, Wolves, with Drake, 2015. An entire collaborative project with Drake was hinted at around the time Wolves was being teased. Billboards reading Calabasas is the new Abu Dhabi added to the mystery. Though Wolves did appear on The Life of Pablo, the full Ye Pine Drake album never happened. Chapter 8. TurboGrafx 16, 2016. Named after an old video game console, TurboGrafx 16 was announced in 2016 and even had studio sessions teased online. It was said to have a fun, energetic, and nostalgic vibe, but the project quietly disappeared, likely overtaken by Ye's focus on The Life of Pablo, and later Ye. Chapter 9. Good Ass Job with Chance the Rapper, 2018. In 2018, Ye revived the Good Ass Job title during a period of intense creativity in Wyoming. He teamed up with Chance the Rapper to bring it to life as a faith-filled collaborative project. Studio sessions were confirmed, and both artists spoke publicly about their progress.
Me and Chance working on a new album.
But as Ye's focus drifted toward Ye, Yandy, and eventually Jesus is King, the Good Ass Job revival was quietly abandoned. No official tracks from the project ever surfaced. Chapter 10, Love Everyone, 2018. Before releasing Ye in 2018, Ye teased a project called Love Everyone. It was said to be a more personal, emotionally open album. The title and concept were scrapped, but some of its songs evolved into what became Ye. Chapter 11, Watch the Throne 2, Unconfirmed/2018. In 2018, Ye hinted that a second Watch the Throne album with Jay-Z might be coming. They briefly worked together again on Donda, but there's been no real update since. Fans still hope for a sequel, though it seems unlikely due to creative differences and past tension. Chapter 12, Yandy, 2018 to 2019. Yandy was supposed to follow Ye, mixing spiritual ideas with trap beats and melodies. Songs like 80 Degrees, an early version of Hurricane, and Sky City became popular after leaks. The album was delayed over and over and was eventually dropped in favor of Jesus is King. Some of the songs and ideas were reused in later projects like Donda and Vultures 2.
You said the album was coming out on Saturday. It didn't come out. What happened?
I didn't finish it.
Chapter 13, Jesus is King 2, with Dr. Dre, 2019. A sequel to Jesus is King was officially announced, with Dr. Dre in the studio. Though the full album never dropped, the song Use This Gospel remix, featuring Eminem, was later released on DJ Khaled's album God Did. Fans still hope the rest of Jesus is King 2 will surface someday. Chapter 14, God's Country, 2020. Ye teased a new album in 2020 called God's Country. The first single was Wash Us in the Blood featuring Travis Scott, but the project seemed to morph into Donda, and no full track list was ever released under the original title. Chapter 15, OG Donda, 2020 to 2021. The original version of Donda was played at multiple listening events with different versions of songs, unreleased verses, and alternate features. Over time, the tracklist shifted dramatically. The album that dropped in 2021 was quite different from what was first teased, leaving fans to imagine what the OG Donda might have been. Chapter 16, Bad Bee Playbook, Early Vultures, 2022. Before Vultures had a name, Ye was working on an aggressive, fashion-themed tape rumored to be called Bad Bee Playbook. This era had heavy bass, fast-paced bars, and experimental sounds. It set the tone for what would later evolve into the Vultures series. Chapter 17, War, 2022 to 2023. After Donda 2, Ye began working on Wall with James Blake and No ID, using dark minimal sounds. Snippets of songs like Showtime and Bobby Digital leaked and became fan favorites. Showtime was later reworked for Ye's solo project Bully. In the end, Wall was scrapped to focus on Vultures 1 with Ty Dolla $ign. Chapter 18, Kids See Ghosts 2, Unconfirmed. After their first album, Ye and Kid Cudi teased a sequel and even released a cartoon trailer, but their friendship broke down later and the album was never made. No songs or official updates ever came out, so the project was left behind. Even though they reunited in a listening party for Vultures 1 and made a song together named Gun to My Head, which dropped on the Vultures 2 Deluxe, it's clear the sequel isn't a priority. Chapter 19, Vultures 3, probably scrapped. The final part of the Vultures trilogy was teased many times but never released. Even though Ye and Ty Dolla $ign had hits like Carnival and All Mine, the project was delayed due to outside drama and changes in focus. As of 2025, both artists are working on solo albums, Bully and Tycoon, and Vultures 3 still has no confirmed release date. Chapter 20. Bully, 2025.
Bully is Ye's next solo album, first shown in 2025 in a rough, unfinished form. The preview called Bully V1 used lots of AI-made vocals and really heavy production, which led to mixed reactions. A new version of Showtime was included. Some fans worry about how much AI is used, and are unsure about where the album is going.
Ye's unreleased and cancelled albums give us a unique look into his bold and ever-changing creative mind. Even though many of these albums never came out, the leaks, previews, and stories around them have kept fans interested. Whether or not they ever get released, these projects already have a special place in hip-hop history, reminding us that sometimes the most interesting art is the one we never fully get to hear.